treating each other a bit like baby girls sometimes. Like, you have feelings and they're sensitive, and I'm sorry for hurting them, you know? And not like belittling the person for having sensitive feelings. Like, that's just, it is what it is. And don't be like, toughen up to your husband or to your wife, you know? The person you're married to is the person you should be able to be the softest with. You know, if you can't be soft with your husband or your wife, who are you gonna be soft with? Your boss, your coworker? Like, they don't give a crap. Protecting that soft inner core, that like... Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin and I run the blog called Mrs. Midwest. It's that time of year again. It's July, so it's my anniversary. So I have another year of marriage under my belt. And as you know, I love to talk about my best marriage tips this time of year, just as a bit of like a reflection on my experience being married. I have been a bride, a wife for 8 years now. And I'm 30, so I got married at the young age of 22. We have grown up together. We have gone through so much. We're parents now, and not new parents either. We've been doing the parenting thing for a bit. So I thought for this video, we would go a little juicier. We would be a little more off the cuff, but kind of like dig into some topics that maybe I've avoided in the past. This video isn't going to be TMI, but I'm going to do my best to kind of like pull the curtain back and share how we make things work, especially around like intense topics. This isn't going to be like a what I've learned, maybe a little bit, but we're going to talk about a lot of the questions I get from you guys. So let's just start. Let's just dive in. This is gonna be a little boring. I'm sorry if you're not a parent yet, but I get asked all the time, like, how do you keep up the romance and the intimacy after kids? Now, of course, you can take this question and kind of like aim it towards physical intimacy, but I'm also just think I'm gonna answer this based on just intimacy in general. Like, how do I feel emotionally close to him? How did we keep up our romantic love, even with all the high pressure of having kids and all of that? So, I'll give you some tips. I'll talk about it a little bit. But I think the first thing that you guys need to know about my husband and I is that we started off as friends. So we were buddying it up. Like we met on a study abroad, and I didn't like notice him right away. I wasn't like, oh, that guy's so cute, like I need to get to know him. It was like we were friends and we kind of got to know each other, and I just was like, wow, this guy's like so cool. And I want to hang out around him more. And he was like the life of the party. He led us around. Like he would be like, okay, I'm gonna go to this landmark at 5 a.m. because the best time to see it is sunrise. And he'd like have his backpack packed, and then he'd show up at 5 a.m. to like leave to go look at the landmark, and there would be a group of 15 of us like all there with our backpacks, like gonna join him. Like he just that's kind of what I love about him. Like he'll just like do stuff in life, and other people will follow him because it's such a great idea. And he was like happy to bring us along with him, but he's like such a leader, but not because he tries to be. He just like tries to squeeze the most out of life, and people just flock to him. So that's kind of how I got to know him. So we started as friends, and we started with me in the mindset of like, even if this guy like never likes me back, I just want to hang out with him all the time, forever. Like I want to be his friend. And so I think I've always thought about like keeping up intimacy in marriage, because we start as friends. To me, the most intimate thing in our marriage is the fact that we're still friends. He is my best friend. And I know a lot of married people say that, and it's like, what does that mean? Because, you know, we're not best friends in the sense that like, we don't share the same taste in music. We don't share the same humor even. We don't share the same, like, movies is probably something we overlap the most on, but we still like different movies. I like sci-fi and dystopian movies, or like, you know, futuristic stuff or mysteries or whatever, and he likes westerns and the Civil War or the Revolutionary War, you know, typical guy stuff. Or he would even take a rom-com before I would, you know. So anyways, all that to say is we're not best friends because we have like the same interests. It's not that surface level, it's deeper. Like we have the same outlook on life. We share a lot about our lives. We share a lot about our POVs. You know, if someone cuts me off in traffic and shakes their fist at me, I'll go home and I'll tell him about it. Like we share about our lives, we stay close. And I think approaching the whole thing with kids, we just kept doing that. So it's like he listens about whatever I go through with the kids, and he pays attention and he offers his thoughts, and he's not always just giving me advice or being like, oh, that sucks. Like, he's commiserating with me. And then the same goes for him and his job. He'll tell me everything. He is a state trooper and he sees crazy things on the job, but I'm not like too precious to like hear about the sad or dark or hard things. So I will listen to the sad stuff or the hard stuff or the scary stuff and like support him, and that's really important to keeping our friendship, because then we don't have like a disconnect growing. And I think that's what can happen is like when you become mother and he becomes father, like you have this huge new responsibility and role, and it's really hard to understand what it is to be a father when you're a mother, and vice versa. And so I think what we try to do is like respect, hey, I'm a mother now, you're a father now, we're going to support each other, and not try to control each other in that, or distance ourselves because we don't understand it, but like get to know the new version of you as you're becoming a mom or as you're becoming a father. That's a big, huge thing, as well as like fostering respect with each other. So we're gonna see things differently. We're going to view parenting things differently. We're going to have high tension moments where there's temptation to snap at each other. I think just remembering that you're friends, like, why did you have kids? Why did you start a family with him? Why did you marry him? Like, remembering the answers to those questions every single day. Like, if the goal is family, your decisions and your like communication and your connection should all be to foster family. And I think a lot of moms forget this. It's like you become a mom and your number one priority is giving your kids the best life ever and being the best mom ever. But you need to remember that part of giving your child the best life ever, you know, this isn't always possible, but the goal should be to have a great marriage with your husband, because that supports a family. That supports like a good vibe day in, day out. Is if you and your husband, you're not bickering all the time, you're not fighting, you're not silent treatmenting each other, you know, you're on the same page, you're friends, the kids feel very secure in that. So I would say for romance after kids, it's almost about like lowering the priority of the kids. Like, I am really hands-on with my kids. Like, I'm super involved in everything. But I will say my marriage is like super important to me too. I don't place the kids above the marriage. I wouldn't say like, I don't care about the kids, it's all about my husband. I'm not one of those people. But I definitely pay as close of attention to the health of my relationship with my husband as I do to the health of my relationship with each of my children. So I like do daily check-ins with myself, like, how are things going with the kids? Do I need to spend more time cuddling one of them? Do I need to like top up on discipline with one of them? And then I also think about my husband, you know, how are we doing? You know, we haven't seen each other lately, especially this past week. It's actually a good time for me to be making this video. He has been gone for basically a week. We've been without data and we haven't had a time to talk on the phone. It's been really crazy, but we're actually like still doing well. And I think it's because we've honed in these skills over 8 years of marriage, 9.5 years of being together, where it's like, 1 week apart is not going to break us. You know, we've been through this before. We're close, we're friends. And I think that friendship is the foundation. And like, what is friendship really built on? It's about wanting to be together and enjoying your time together and supporting one another and respecting one another. So I think if you want to build a stronger friendship with your husband, the number one thing you can do is top up that respect. This goes both ways. Like, he needs to respect me as his wife, as the mother of his children, and like vice versa. So when we're talking about respect, like, that's like, do not belittle your husband. Do not like be sharp and rude with him. Try to be vulnerable, where it's like, hey, I'm feeling kind of stressed with the kids. So sorry if I came across as like sharp with you. I have a lot going on. Can you step in and help me? Or can you like hold that thought till we're done this, like getting out the door or whatever. You know, I think that open communication, just like pulling back the curtain of like, why are you feeling the way you're feeling, and like communicating that effectively without like picking at emotions. Men are not like women, you know, all of us wives will tell you that. And they're kind of sensitive, honestly. I think a lot of men are pretty sensitive, which is weird because like sometimes they don't always notice when like this overstimulation in the house is like getting super like ratcheted up, but they'll notice if you send them a sharp word, right? So my key takeaway is like, before you get to the point of sending him a sharp word, remember, he's your friend, he cares. Just say, hey, things are getting kind of intense. Can you step in with the kids over here? It works every time. Like, unless he's like super busy saving somebody's life or like in the middle of a really intense project, like what's he gonna say? No. Like if he does, like you have bigger problems on your hand. I would say to foster friendship, you need to foster that respect. So again, this kind of, I think I've said this in like every single marriage video. Do not expect him to read your mind. Would it be so nice if my husband of 8 years, been together 9.5 years, could read my mind? Yeah. And quite often he can. Like, quite often he can tell, like, ooh, she is feeling stressed, or ooh, she would benefit from like help, or she would do this. But you know what? I'm not like we're not the center of each other's worlds. We're best friends. We're very in love, but our life doesn't revolve around only thinking about our spouse. So he does think about me as I think about him, but he doesn't just hit the ground in the morning being like, what is she thinking? What does she need? How can I help her? You know, and I don't really do that for him. You know, we kind of live our lives and we do think about each other, but it's important not to have that super high expectation that he is always going to know what you need or want. Sometimes he does. Sometimes I come home and I was dreading doing the dishes and he already did them. Amazing. Like, wow, that's so good. I think when you lose the expectation for your husband to read your mind just because he's the love of your life, you know, you can preemptively remove a lot of heartbreak from yourself. And you can also help him out. I think helping out a husband by saying, hey, I need this, I want that, I need this, it can be very vulnerable. But it can bring you closer to him, because at least then it's clear, at least then he knows what you want, at least then the communication is open. And like part of friendship, like long lasting, stable friendship, is not letting things get too extreme, not letting things build up, not letting passive aggression build up, because that stuff breaks down friendship. So always trying to support each other as friends, can really help you understand each other in those really intense seasons. And it's important to remember, okay, what is having a kid? Like, why do people ask all the time, like, how do you stay close after kids? Is it the kids that cause the problem? Like, what is it about being a parent that can put stress on a marriage? Well, it's kind of everything. It's like your sleep needs lower, your attention is divided, your time is divided, your money is shrinking. Like, it's a lot of stress and pressure. So having kids, take it seriously. Don't just do it willy-nilly. Realize it comes with a lot of extra responsibilities, and batten down the hatches and pull up your bootstraps when it's time. Look at each other and be like, look, this is going to be one of the hardest things we're going to do together, but we're going to leave this season as friends and have some mutual agreements with each other. Like, we're never going to let this happen, or we're never gonna like leave each other like totally stranded when this is happening. You know, when you're feeling this way, you're gonna come tell me. You know, we kind of have a bit of those understandings of like, we are not gonna let this get to the ultimate extreme insanity of like people are breaking down, losing their minds. Like, before it gets there, we're gonna go to each other because you're a safe person, you're my safe person. So realize, like, being a parent puts stress on the marriage, kind of the same way like getting a really new intense job would put stress on the marriage. Being long distance would put stress on the marriage. It's not something that you can't overcome. It's just something that you need to actually take seriously and realize, okay, maybe we can't just do what we've always been doing and just expect like things to flow. Like, maybe he didn't used to help you with the dishes because you were a stay-at-home wife, but since you had kids, your responsibilities have multiplied, so he needs to help you. You know, it's always okay to like pause after kids and be like, what's working, what's not working? And realize too, like, having a baby is very different than having a toddler, which is very different than having a 4-year-old. And these things are evolving and moving, and just because you had an agreement at one point in your marriage doesn't mean that needs to stay the same for years and years and years. Dovetailing that into the idea of physical intimacy, I am not a proponent of like, fake it till you make it, force it, let's just do it. Like, a lot of people in this like traditional homemaking Christian space are like, wives will get on Instagram stories and be like, I just tell myself like I have to do it, you know, to make him happy, or it's my godly duty to have physical intimacy. And my POV, I have a blog post that goes into detail on this, but I am a huge proponent of desire, mutual desire. And if you are not feeling desire, let's get to the heart of the issue. Let's get to the heart of the issue. Let's dig down. Do you need help with the kids? Do you need less responsibilities? Do you need more sleep? Do you need more one-on-one emotional talking time? I am the type of person, which we said in this video, we were going to get a little more deep in the weeds here. I am the type of person, you need to talk to me and have an emotional connection before I feel any type of way about wanting to kiss you. I need to be talked to. I need attention. I need to talk about my life, my thoughts, my day, even if that's just, I saw a turtle on the way home from my bike ride and I was worried about the turtle getting hit by a car. What do you think of that? Should I have moved the turtle? You know, these kinds of things are in my mind, right? Oh, I bought some clothes for the kids. What do you think of this? You know, and if he listens to me, which he's my friend, I hope he does listen to me, I will feel closer to him. And that naturally produces more desire in our relationship. So if you don't feel desire after kids, don't be hard on yourself. Realize there's things we can do. There's physical barriers. Maybe you want some pelvic floor therapy. Maybe you want to work out and feel more confident in your body. Maybe you're just physically exhausted and you need more sleep. You need better food. You need to get your nutrients up. Maybe you're feeling emotionally exhausted, like from the kids, and you need to de-stimulate for a while. Maybe you are feeling relationally exhausted and you are like, ugh, I don't feel close with you. It's very hard to desire my husband when I don't feel emotionally close to him. And just because you're married doesn't mean you're forever going to be emotionally close to your husband. You need to water that relationship and be very clear. You know, I also really do believe in love languages. My love language is quality time and acts of service. It's gotten heavier into acts of service since kids. I think a lot of moms can relate to this. Like I said, you come home, you see the dishes done, and you're like, oh, he thought of me. Like, he thought of my workload and he helped me, like my hero. And so I thank him. You know, that's another thing. Like, when he puts in effort because he's my friend, I thank him. I know, like, it's all expected, like, oh, it's expected, she's the mom, she's gonna do this, and he's the dad, he's gonna do that. But I think applying a firm layer of gratitude, just swathing that gratitude all over your marriage, can make everybody feel happy and encouraged and motivated to keep doing what they're doing because they feel noticed. And a huge component of a happy marriage is feeling noticed, seen, and that makes you feel loved. Who is going to feel desiring of their husband, unless it's just like a hormonal thing, if you don't feel seen or or noticed or listened to? Those emotional things really help a marriage. And you can communicate this to your husband. I've said it to him in the past, you know, I just need to talk for a bit. I just need to like reconnect. I just need to talk. I need to share my thoughts. I need to hear your thoughts. I have all this stuff that's bothering me. Yep. And that's okay. Like, that's what makes me feel close to him. And so address in your life what makes you feel close to your husband. When do you feel happiest? When do you feel like, you know, yourself with him? And then outside of the husband, I would say if we set that aside and we think about physical intimacy after marriage, making this YouTube PG, something to consider is getting in touch with your feminine sensuality. Now, feminine sensuality is kind of a topic I have avoided thus far on my channel because I am more of a family-friendly creator and a wholesome, whimsical girly, you know. But I'm a woman. I have children. I am married. You know what I've been up to, right? Feminine sensuality is not something to be ashamed of. I think a lot of people who struggle with like purity culture, if you know what that is, like from past Christian experiences, maybe like you're not in touch with your sensual side, the erotic side of being a woman. That can go away when you're a mom and you're touched out and you're like a milk machine, or you're changing diapers, you're just exhausted, or you don't feel confident in your body, right? That can feel like it's never gonna come back, right? So after kids, you might have to take the time and the energy and the effort to work on that. Now, when I did pelvic floor therapy, some of the appointments were about the physical side of the pelvic floor therapy because I had 2 back-to-back pregnancies, if you guys remember any of that. But the second part of the pelvic floor therapy was about the mental blockage, because when you have a baby, you have pain down there, right? And sometimes that pain can be lasting for months, even after birth. And when you're intimate and it's combined with pain, you have these neural pathways in your brain that are connecting your husband and the act of physical intimacy with pain. So it makes you close off and it makes you, I don't like this, right? Pelvic floor therapy for me was about breaking down the connection of pain and intimacy and reworking the neural pathways in my mind so I could get to a place where intimacy after birth did not involve pain. I feel like embarrassed talking about this, but it's the facts. It's the nitty gritty. We're talking about marriage, right? This is part of marriage. It's a very big part of marriage. So part of coming in back in tune with the sensual side of femininity does involve the pleasure, right? It involves working together, communication. It involves appreciating yourself as a woman, you know, in your new body. I have stretch marks. My body is not the same. I'm proud of myself. I feel good about myself. You know, it's about doing the steps that it takes for you to feel more in touch with that side of yourself. If that is, my pelvic floor therapist even recommended, like, just think about it more. Think about marital intimacy. Think about what you like about it. Try to get yourself looking forward to some quiet time with your husband. Think about when in your week or your day that would most be something you'd be interested in, right? And listen to your hormones. Get your health in check. Get your sleep in check. Get your energy in check. And then get your glam and your beauty and whatever you need to feel good about yourself, so you can show up as a full person back into that marital intimacy. So you want to be there. I am not a fan of, even if you don't want to be there, do it. No. Who wants that? Who wants that? If your husband didn't want to be there with you, would you want him there? No. There are building blocks we can take so that we all want to be there. I know this is kind of meta, and I hope you're grasping what I'm putting down, but I just really encourage you to not just kick the bucket down the road and just view it as a problem for another day. Sometimes putting off these types of problems can lead to years of no intimacy for either of you. And also, as an aside, try to have an understanding with each other that non-sensual touch is extremely important for building intimacy. So hugging, hand-holding, a squeeze on the shoulder, putting my face next to yours. Not everything is me coming on to you in that way. It's, you're my best friend, you're my love, you're my husband. I want physical closeness, and not always with the guarantee of being physically intimate, right? We have always had that, where I can hold your hand and you're not just creeping up on me all the time and putting pressure. Taking away that pressure and having non-sensual intimacy is a really great way to get closer again and take away that pressure, especially if you're not feeling too good, or if you're not feeling kind of in that sensual headspace. Just having that closeness with your husband, it repairs the relationship in a lot of ways. And sometimes, after kids, after that, the trenches of the newborn days and postpartum, you need to repair the relationship, and you need to get new routines and a new way of approaching these things. Even just having intimacy when the baby, is the baby next door? Where's the baby at? Getting those things squared away, kind of having a plan in your head. I really encourage you to journal about this. If you don't know where to start, watch YouTube videos. There's a lot of people in the femininity space who also talk about intimacy and sensual, erotic, feminine energy. I'm not your girl for that. I get embarrassed, but there is content, and it is worth talking about. Because when that's flowing and when your intimacy is good, you just usually happier as a married couple. It's really great to have that kind of squared away, because it's a part of what it is to be married and not just be roommates. That was a lot. I didn't expect to talk about all of that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about something else, totally different. Okay, again, this is a much juicier video than your girl is used to, and it might be longer. Okay, let's talk about fights. Fights? Do we fight? Yes, we fight. But we don't fight, we don't even fight and scream. We argue, we debate. I am married to somebody who his entire life he's won every single fight he's ever been in. Physical, verbal, and he's had to fight people. He does jujitsu, he's a trooper. You know how it is. But I'm his wife, and you can't always win every fight when you're married. I haven't won every debate, every argument. He hasn't either. And I think that's where I want to start this conversation, is that the best thing I can tell you guys, and something that we do, I don't really view fights anymore as a fight, where it's me versus him. I view the fight as, we're together and we're really confused and unstable and not really flowing, and we're over here and we're fighting something over here, right? So there's an issue and we're like, but really what we're fighting against isn't each other, it's whatever we're facing, okay? So maybe what you're facing is like, for us, what we like probably land on the most with arguments is his schedule is insane. Like, if you guys have watched any of my vlogs, there's like no consistency of like, where are you? When are you coming home? Because he's on call. He has like a bi-weekly schedule that changes a lot. He has random trainings that sometimes last all day. He'll switch from day shift to night shift. And then he also does jujitsu multiple times a week, which is great. It helps him with his job and he loves it. And he's done competitions. He's very good at it. I support. That's my disclaimer. But he's also getting his pilot's license, and that's like a whole thing. He's a deacon at church. He's a father. He's a husband. This man is stretched thin, right? And I try to respect that. But wifey also needs attention. I need help at home. And so I would say the number one thing that we argue about would be like, can you take some time off? Kids are like acting out or whatever, right? So say that's what we're fighting about. And he's like, I'm trying my best. I can't always ask for time off. The way I look at it now, I didn't do this when I was first married, but the way I look at it now is we're going to go through this like tunnel, which is the fight. The fight is the tunnel, and we're going to get to the light at the end of the tunnel. And the light at the end of the tunnel isn't you being right or me being right. The light at the end of the tunnel is us understanding each other and coming up with a solution that helps everybody. Now, it's really important, I think, to not get into a ton of mini fights. And mini fights would be like fighting about dumb stuff. Like, do you remember when we went to this breakfast restaurant when we were first dating on a Wednesday? And it's like, it wasn't a Wednesday, it was a Tuesday. Have you ever been around a couple that fights like that? It is so annoying. I think if you want a low conflict marriage, it's important to know when to let things go. I let things go all the time, like regarding those kind of low stakes fights and arguments. But also, so does he. Because when you model the behavior of, remember when we went to that place on a Wednesday, and you say, no, it was a Tuesday. And he goes, oh yeah, maybe it was a Tuesday. Conflict avoided, right? But then you feel kind of dumb for like sticking your foot in the sand over something kind of silly, right? So we've both learned to like not cause conflict over silly things. And that's a really important part of maturing and getting older and realizing life is too short for this. My energy is too low for this. I have too much on my plate for dumb little arguments. Having to win every dumb little argument makes you a very self-centered person, and it makes you kind of view your spouse as like the person who's always wrong. Who wants to be married to somebody like that? I don't. Let him be right sometimes. Let you be right. Like, who cares? It's not that serious, right? Save your energy for when it is serious, when these conflicts are actually threatening your intimacy. And that's what you need to view fighting as. It's not him versus you. It's you guys versus losing your intimacy over something. So the light at the end of the tunnel is the solution. So the way I approach fights, since I have matured and grown as a woman, I have not always been this way. How I approach fights is I work my hardest to try to understand him, my opponent. I view it not as he's evil and he doesn't care about me and blah, 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 because I know that's not true, right? You have to know what's true and what's not true if you are going to be in an argument. So I try to view, okay, what is he trying to say? Why does he think that? How can I see where he's coming from? And how can I communicate where I'm coming from? And we keep going back and forth over and over and over until we have a mutual understanding. And then we go about finding a solution, right? The key to arguing is overriding your desire to win. I know that can be very hard, but part of maturing and part of putting your marriage and your intimacy over yourself is to not give into the desire just to be right at all costs. Now, it's okay to want to be understood. Now, wanting to be understood is not the same as wanting to be right or wanting to win an argument. Wanting to win an argument means kind of like steamrolling the other person until they bow down in submission to your way is right and they are wrong. How I think we approach fights and how I think it's worked for us is to not try to steamroll the other person into seeing it our way and obeying us and changing everything about themselves. It's instead trying our hardest to communicate and understanding. I might even communicate this entire thing and you might still not really understand, but because you love me, you will respect where I'm coming from on this. Does that make sense? So sometimes the solution is, okay, just so you know, I don't really like what we're doing here, but I don't really find it harmful, so sure, we'll do it your way. But the funny thing is, when you say that, the other person always goes, no, we'll do it your way. That's kind of where we always end up in an argument. Like one of us breaks first and we'll be like, okay, yeah, we'll do it your way. And then the other person's like, oh, this doesn't feel good. No, we'll do it your way. And then we come to a mutual understanding. I'm also not, you know how people say like, don't let the sun go down on your anger. So never go to bed angry. And you'll be people on Reels or TikTok being like, I've been married 40 years and we've never gone to bed with a fight. I actually think like that's weird advice, because I think what the advice really means, like, don't let the sun go down on your anger. For me, that means don't let the problem just be swept under the rug forever. So I don't really think it matters if you fight into the early hours of the morning or if you sleep on something and wake up and keep talking. I think what the proverb really means is don't just keep sweeping things under the rug, because then the lumps under the rug are going to rise and you're going to be tripping all the time. It's important to, keep your wits about you, keep your emotions about you. And I actually don't think there's anything wrong with like putting a pause button on a fight or an argument until emotions kind of calm down. And also like respecting rules of engagement. So our rules of engagement is like, dude, if somebody like starts being demeaning in an argument, like say I started like calling him bro in an argument, like, bro, you don't understand. That would make him so mad. And I get why. Like, it's kind of like to like pick at them and disrespect. So it's really important for us even in the middle of an argument or a fight to not go there. Like, don't be nasty. Don't be rude. Don't bring something up. This is also a rule we have. You cannot bring something up from years and years ago that the person has apologized for and like truly made right. Don't hold on to things. And at the end, like, work to forgive and don't do stuff in the argument or the fight that like you can't take back. Don't say things that you can't take back, people. Like, a fight is not like an open, clear airway for you to just go at your partner with all the anger you've ever stored in your soul. Like, this is why it's important to have like thick skin. It's important to like be easy to forgive in a marriage, because living with somebody is hard. Like, they're not going to be perfect. You're not perfect. You're going to do stuff that's going to make them mad, like a lot. And it's important to be quick to like forgive and brush things off and like not view everything as an intentional slight. Like, for example, I use my husband's gym and I have left the weights out, like the dumbbells, because I finished my workout. I'm like, oh, I'm tired. And then I just like walk away carelessly, leaving his gym space messy. And you know what? I've realized that on my own and started cleaning, and he appreciated it. But he also like didn't mind picking up after me for months, because he like supported that I was working out and it wasn't a big deal to him. And likewise, I will do that for him. Like, I don't mind picking up the occasional socks on the floor. I can talk a big game about it. Like, I don't pick up everything after you, but it's important looking at where your spouse is. How stressed are they in life? Do they need extra help? Do they just need someone to go easy on them a little bit? Not everything's black and white. Like, I will never pick up after you. Or I'll pick up after you all the time. Like, it's important to like flow and evolve with whatever's going on in your life. So sometimes I'm like, he can't be around that much. He's training all the time, or he has work a lot. Like, I'll pick up the slack. It's not a big deal. But I'll let him know, like, I need a break eventually or whatever. So it's important to not just like have this extreme view of your spouse that they are out to get you. Like, remember to kind of mind your own business, and also regularly think about how annoying you might be to live with, and you might chill out a little bit. Like, you're not perfect. I think that's something I've grown in a lot. I think I was like way more of a perfectionist even 5-6 years ago. You guys will know that. Watch my earlier videos. I've been told by some of you even that like I've chilled out a lot and I don't seem like I'm such a try-hard, and I would agree with that. And that even goes into my marriage. I like don't try as hard to be perfect. But the nice thing about that is like I also don't expect him to be perfect, and we have a very big like gray area where like you can be a little obnoxious to be a roommate with, and it's not a big deal. So something I'll just leave you with, like with the fights, is something we do kind of unofficially, but I always pause in the middle and I'm like, okay, what I'm hearing is this, and I'll repeat back to him what I think he's trying to communicate, and I'll give him the opportunity to correct me. And he does the same thing for me. And it's really crazy, like when you hear when you're arguing with somebody and you take a moment to ask, what do you, like from your POV, what do you hear I'm saying right now? And they'll be like, you think that I need to do this and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, you're missing the point. But then you do it for them and you're like, wow, I'm missing the point too. And it gives you a moment to like simmer everything down, regroup, reevaluate, and take another stab at it. Fighting well is a very difficult skill. And I think sometimes people can be kind of scared of conflict. I'm not. And I think that's an important trait in a healthy marriage. You know, I've always said since the beginning of my channel, if you can't get over something, you need to bring it up. If you can't bring it up, you need to get over it, right? So that's kind of my rule of thumb. If something is too silly to bring up, I will get over it. Like, I don't need to bring this up. That wasn't a big deal. I'm going to move on. But if I can't get over it, it's like, okay, we have a pattern of disrespect over here, or we have this thing that's really bothering me, or you said this thing that actually very hurt my feelings. I will bring it up. But the key is knowing when to bring things up. Right when a husband comes home from work and he's stressed and the kids are screaming, you might emotionally want to bring something up, but that might not be the right time. Any happily married wife will tell you to time things correctly. Don't just blurt out whatever you're thinking and feeling. And also, if you can't bring something up for like a day, don't spend that day in passive-aggressive misery. I know a lot of us grew up in passive-aggressive homes, and I cannot stand it. It is the most wicked environment for a child. Not the most, but it's a very dysfunctional environment for a child to grow up in. I've been very highly motivated to not foster a passive-aggressive environment for my children, but also for my marriage. So, for example, if something annoyed me, say my husband said something hurtful in a group of people, and it wasn't the time to bring it up at the party, and then we had to put the kids down when we go to bed, I'm not gonna like give him the silent treatment and glare at him like the whole time. Because in my head, I'm thinking, when I bring this up, he's gonna care, he'll probably apologize, we're gonna have a hug, and we'll move on. And because I know that's going to be the outcome, I'm already not really that mad at him. I just need him to know this. So I think what happens is people feel passive aggressive and they want to like jab at somebody with silent treatment and mean looks, because deep down they're scared that the person, when they do have a conflict over it, the person isn't going to care. I think that's what is at the heart of a lot of passive aggression. They want to hurt the person because they felt hurt. Like, my heart hurt when you made that comment, so now I want your heart to hurt, as like an act of revenge, kind of. But I think what's better is reframing it in your mind and realizing, like, my heart hurt from that. He doesn't know it, but he will. And then when he knows it, that's when he can feel sad for me or himself or whatever. But I don't need to make the next few hours miserable and cause more problems, because the key with fights too is not, like I said earlier, adding on things and pain and things that you can't take back on top of what's already been done. Like, if he made a comment and it hurt me, okay, that's one thing. But if I add passive aggression onto that, then I hurt him. If I make everyone at the party feel awkward and uncomfortable, there's another thing I did wrong. If that simmers and boils and then he like yells in the argument because his emotions are raised, that's something he's done. And then I yell too. And now it's like this huge stack of misery and hurt at each other. And we're just like, you know? So what we try to do is like minimize the damage, like triage the wound. So, okay, I got wounded. Now, instead of wounding him back and causing a bigger mess, I'm going to meditate. Self-control, maturity, bring it up when the time is right. He can apologize, bandage up my wound, and on we go, right? That's how we maintain our friendship. So don't strike back in revenge. Wait till the time is right. It's not the end of the world. You're going to hurt each other if you're married to each other. It's just how it is. Look at two kids who are siblings and raised together. No one fights like a sibling. No one loves like a sibling, right? Like when you're growing up. it's kind of the same for marriage. You know, you're in this life together. Try to mitigate the wounds as much as possible. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. It's never worth it to add on stuff you can't take back or make problems worse. And that's also just part of maturing and growing up, is like realizing just because somebody hurt you doesn't mean you need to hurt them back in order to like even the score. If they're a good person and they love you, they will feel sad when they find out that they hurt you. And that's punishment enough, in my opinion. So fights, do we fight? Yes, but it's kind of never that serious. One of our biggest fights was about like the sock drawer being out of control, and I was like, I'm trying my best, you have too many socks, and he's like, I can't ever find my work socks, and I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, we were back and forth. That was maybe in our first year of marriage. Things are way less intense now. I think part of it is just getting older. But I would also say never give up trying to communicate. Until the dying day of your marriage, I think it's important to remember that your feelings matter. So try to become mature. Try to not get as offended about little stuff. But also remember, like, you can bring things up. You can share your heart. That's part of intimacy. It's part of how you foster that friendship. If he never knows that your feelings were hurt by that comment he said, you're always going to feel kind of like a little bit of a pain. But there's no opportunity for him to make it right, you know? So part of opening up and being vulnerable is giving the other person an opportunity to make things right. I was short with my husband and flippant the other week. Like, he said something and I was just like brushed it off because I wanted to get back to what I was telling him. And he was like, ouch. And I doubled down. I was like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. And I kept talking about what I wanted to talk about. But then, and he kind of moved on too. But then an hour later, I was like driving, doing an errand, and I thought, that was really like not cool of me. So I texted him and I was like, hey, sorry for being flippant with you. That was not cool. And he was like, thank you for saying that. It's okay. And we repaired that little wound I had done, and we worked on our intimacy in the moment, because part of like, I think protecting your marriage is protecting that soft part of your marriage, like not making things so hardcore and like sharp with each other all the time, not having that rough like back and forth with friction and just expecting each other to toughen up, like treating each other a bit like baby girls sometimes. Like, you have feelings and they're sensitive, and I'm sorry for hurting them, you know? And not like belittling the person for having sensitive feelings. Like, that's just, it is what it is. And don't be like, toughen up to your husband or to your wife, you know? The person you're married to is the person you should be able to be the softest with. You know, if you can't be soft with your husband or your wife, who are you going to be soft with? Your boss, your coworker? Like, they don't give a crap. Protecting that soft inner core, that living organ of your marriage, that soft underbelly, and keeping it sacred helps you just preserve the overall happiness of the marriage, because then that's that person you can curl into. You know, that's that person you can tell that vulnerable thing to. That's the person you can go to when you're struggling with something. Not crossing those lines when you're fighting. Circling back and thinking, did I hurt them? Yeah, I did. Okay, I need to make it right. But also letting them make it right. Forgiving. Lots of grace. Forgiving them. And you know when someone's just saying sorry to like move on versus when they're saying sorry because they like care and they mean it. And realizing too, okay, I forgive you. I need to cool off for an afternoon, or I need to not talk about this for a little bit. Work on forgiving and moving on. Like, that wound for a wound kind of tick for tat marriage often ends in a lot of heartbreak. So yeah, got like really, that was like a little intense. All of these are like kind of intense, but that's just the nature of this 8-year marriage video. Okay, let's go to something also kind of hot button. In-laws. How do I handle in-laws? In-law drama. It's natural. Most people go through it. I think you're gonna find more people who have a bit of friction with their in-laws than people who are just like, it's perfect all the time. I added to their family and it was like I was there since day one. Like, you'll see some of those people, but more often than not, it's like we have different ways of doing life. We have different cultural backgrounds, even sometimes different like religious differences, stuff like that. Different expectations around holidays or child rearing or time together. How do I handle in-laws? I actually let my husband handle it. So my mindset with in-law friction, I've been very blessed. I love my in-laws. They're such a huge support to us. especially like when we need help with the kids, like if we have medical stuff going on. They're great. But that doesn't mean there's never conflict. And what I would say is how we handle it, the juiciest thought of this video, is that it's definitely the responsibility of the person who is biologically related to the family to deal with it. So I kind of view it like my side of the family is mine to manage. Like for holidays and like buying gifts, I will take care of that for my side of the family, and I can involve him as much or as little as he wants to. I don't put that pressure on him like, well, you need to buy a gift from your heart for my relative, you know. And it's kind of the same way. I let him buy the gifts or like kind of spearhead that type of stuff unless I want to go off on my own and kind of like take a bigger role. But it's not like on me just because I'm the wife to like take care of like that kind of stuff. Like you can buy a gift for your mom for Mother's Day, like that's your mom. That's kind of how we manage it. And I think mother-in-law, father-in-law, in-law relationships, it's extremely cultural. So if you're like, I don't know, Punjabi Indian or something, you're gonna have a way different like POV on this. Some people have their in-laws live with them. Some people never see their in-laws. We're just like a very classic white Protestant situation where we see them a lot, especially for holidays. But I don't put pressure on myself as the wife to like manage the relationship between my husband and his parents. Like that's his relationship. I would also say, I think just having like firm boundaries of like understanding they're not always going to like, understand all of your decisions. Like we're raising kids in a different day and age and we're going to do things differently. And like, I don't really like try to read too much into comments about how I raise my kids. And I try not to like take everything as like a nefarious, mean comment. You know, sometimes people are just commenting like, oh, back when I was raising kids, we did it this way. And it's not always like a personal jab. So I would say like, especially with in-laws, it's like, try not to take everything so personally. Try to give a lot of benefit of the doubt and try to seek out positive things to do. You know, if you're all sitting around and like, you know, there's not much to talk about, maybe try to plan an activity next time you get together. We have a lot of fun with my in-laws, like when we travel, when we do like a nice dinner with them or go to a show. I would say, just not really speaking of my situation, but just like the hypothetical of an in-law situation, I would say you don't need to force a close relationship, but you should force like peace and respect. So try to respect your in-laws as much as possible. Try to keep the peace as much as possible, but also understand when things can like turn toxic or when you need boundaries or just some space or some breathing room. And the number one thing above all else, I would say, and I hope my kids do this when I'm an in-law, you and your husband need to be like one on the same page. It shouldn't be like you and your parents against your husband or you and his parents or him and his parents against you. Leave and cleave. That's actually a biblical concept. It's like the idea that when a husband and wife get married, they leave their father and mother and they form a new family. So that's kind of like nice because that's my husband's parents' mindset too. Like as soon as we got married, we were our own family and they don't try to interfere or step on our toes. Like they let our decisions be our decisions. And I think that's such a wise and wonderful way to approach an in-law relationship from the POV of the in-law, is to let them figure it out, like let them grow. I think also like a lot of young married couples go through that phase of like, we're just hanging out with each other, like we need a lot of time together. And then you have kids and you want to like be more involved in the wider community. You know, this is all very natural. And I think you can weather the storms of differences in family just by understanding like we're different. We're from different backgrounds. There might be a little bit of friction here or there, but trying not to take things too personally while also knowing your own boundaries. Like if you know, okay, I can't handle 3 days in a row of being around family, especially in a shared living space, like know that about yourself and set boundaries. Like if a big family trip comes up and you're like able to have any input, say, hey, we would like maybe like 4 days and then we're going to need some time to cool off and just have some quiet time or space. Understand how you best thrive to help that relationship thrive, I would say. I think also something I do is remember that he's their child. And so when I'm an in-law, like I would love to still see my son, you know? And so I try to not get between them, if that makes sense. So sometimes like I don't always feel like going on over to the in-laws for the day because I have like cleaning to do or I want to work on my YouTube stuff. So I'll be like, hey hon, you take the kids, go have fun. And I think that's really helped our relationship, is just me not putting too much pressure on myself to like always be the perfect daughter-in-law, like always be there, always like, you know, be there as much as my husband. Like I sometimes like let him be around his parents, just them three with the kids, you know, and that's like taken a lot of pressure off of me. And I think that's like a really nice thing. So it's kind of my advice for everything, like just relax a bit, like take the pressure off. Of course, like there's more extreme in-law situations that I cannot speak to. I would say the biggest thing is to cling to your spouse and remember you are a family, and don't let your parents get between you guys, you know, because some people can be kind of conniving, like get between the marriage between a husband and a wife, and that's really wicked. Like that's not good. So if you're fighting a lot about the in-laws, try to remember, like with the stuff I said earlier about just fights in general, like it's not you versus him, it's like you guys versus whatever you're facing. So try to get on the same page and try to help each other understand where you're coming from. And also like seek support with your friends if you need to. Like it can be sometimes like a lot of pressure on a husband if you had issues with your in-laws to like always be complaining to your husband. I don't think that's fair. I think you should maybe like journal or talk to your friends, or just like everyone has conflict in their life, and it's nice to sometimes lean on your community and your friends versus your spouse sometimes for some of that, because it can be a lot of pressure. So that's my little thing. Just remember, it's you guys on the same team. Don't let yourselves be divided. All right. Continuing the theme of like juicy taboo topics, I thought we'd talk about jealousy in relationship and marriage. Do we get jealous? Does he get jealous? Do I get jealous? This is funny because I asked him one time in the past couple of years, I was like, do you ever like feel jealous? Because like I get a lot of attention. Even like when I'm out with the boys without my husband, I will get approached. I get asked like, do you have a boyfriend? Are you married? You know, even though I have a ring on, you know, I get a lot of approaching of the men. And I kind of wondered one time, like, do you get jealous? Like, cause I kind of liked the idea of like, you know, the Twilight, like Edward, you know, was curious, like, does he get jealous? And he said no. And I was like, why? And he was like, well, I think I'd only be jealous like if you liked somebody, or you were like initiating the conversation, or if you were going after somebody. And I was like a little bit miffed. And then I realized like, wow, that is so healthy. And it kind of like made me understand, because I actually feel the same way. Like he's gotten approached a few times, like, and I don't feel jealous. Like I would only feel jealous if he was actively seeking out another woman to spend time with. Like that would make me feel jealous. I think in the realm of jealousy, this brings up a lot of questions of insecurity and confidence. And I think that's something that a lot of men struggle with. And thankfully my husband doesn't. But I have friends whose husbands were extremely jealous. I've dated men in the past who were extremely jealous, and one thing they all had in common is that they were very insecure people, and they kind of would take out that insecurity on the wife or the girlfriend. Like if men are approaching you, it's because you're asking for it, or they're approaching you and they're better than me, and it's just like this big mess. And I would say if you're dealing with this in marriage, don't try to shrink yourself into crazy list of rules to appease the jealous person, because jealous people like that will never feel satisfied. Like you could be covered head to toe, never make eye contact with another man, and maybe you'd still get approached, and maybe they'd still feel jealous and find a way to blame you. But what we need to realize is that being approached by somebody or somebody else finding your wife beautiful is not an attack on the marriage. It just is what it is. It's just people approach people. It's not the end of the world. And as long as that your spouse only has eyes for you, you're good. So deal with the insecurity at hand, but don't blame yourself. I think like it would be very hard if my husband blamed me. It's because you're like remotely nice or bubbly to somebody in the world and they're like, oh, I want to be around you. You know, I've kind of had that my whole life. Like, the nice thing about my husband is he knew what he was getting into when we were married, because this would happen when we were dating. I would say it's happened even more than ever since I've had kids in the last year or so, and he's fine with it. And I think that mindset of like not blaming your spouse for this stuff and not like taking out your insecurities on them is something that kind of goes both ways, because I've met women who are jealous, like their husband is great and, you know, maybe he gets attention and they're just like paranoid all the time about him leaving them. And the issue there is like that can make your spouse feel like you don't trust them, and it can make emotional distance in the relationship. So this isn't really something that we actually struggle with. Like, we've never, like literally never had a conversation where he's like been jealous, like at least not where he's shown me. But the cool thing about that is like it's shown me how confident he is, how much he trusts me, and how he doesn't view me as like this object for men to like look at and I need to be hidden from the world. Like, he views me as like a full person. Like I'm a person who you need to get to know, and he loves me and sees me for who I am, not just like what I look like or things like that, you know. He expects that there will be people interested in talking to his wife, and then they realize she's married and they move on, but he doesn't take it out on me, and he doesn't like blame me or like treat me like I'm doing nefarious things, because I promise you I'm not. I am literally living my life, and these people show up. You know how men are. But he's not mad at me, and like I think if the roles were reversed, like he's more confident than I am. So I think if the roles were reversed and women were approaching him all the time, I would definitely be irritated. Not at him, but I'd be like, stay away, he's mine. And so I, unfortunately, like this video has been pretty juicy. Yes, we fight. Yes, like there's we had to rebuild romance after marriage. But no, we don't struggle with jealousy. I guess maybe that's a juicy thing in and of itself. It's just not something we've ever had to deal with in a big way. He's super like loyal, and he's really like eyes on one woman, like eyes only on me. Like, he just doesn't care to interact with or become super close with another woman. I think it's something that does affect people's marriages, is jealousy, but I think the heart of it and the root of it is the insecurity. And I think when you can become happy in your own life and happy in yourself and feel beautiful on your own, and just know like your husband staying with you or leaving you doesn't take away from your value, and then you're not going to be as like tight-fisted about like, he's mine, stay away. I think like that can help you not be so worried, not so paranoid about your relationship. That being said, that brings me to my what should probably be my final point, because I see that this video is reaching an hour. My final point in this video that I will talk about is something that I've been talking about for the past year or so on my channel, that I think might be a bit controversial, and that is to decenter from your husband. Who would have thought in a marriage video I would be talking about decentering from your husband? But I've talked about this before. It's kind of a bit of an empowered wife concept. The Laura Doyle empowered wife, not to be confused with other versions of whatever wife. Empowered wife. It's a great book. Highly recommend. I'll probably make a video someday on how to become an empowered wife. But basically, the idea of decentering from your husband, I had to learn this. And when you ask my husband, what's the biggest transformation your wife has made that has made your life better since you've been married? He would tell you that it would be, I used to be extremely clingy, kind of depending on him for, what are we doing today? Or he'd have like his hobbies like hunting or whatever, and I would be really frustrated because I didn't have things going on for myself, so I'd feel like he was stealing time from us together. I know a lot of women can struggle with this. I struggled with this. Kind of like everything revolving around him. It's also something that can happen when you're a housewife, because you're not generating your own income. So what, you think I'm gonna go like have a hobby that costs money that I'm not paying for? Like, if I feel guilty, of course I wouldn't do that, right? So what he would tell you is me kind of getting my own hobbies, like this YouTube channel, me like working on my own things, like getting back more involved in the things I like to do and kind of occupying myself. You guys know I like to walk, I like to hike, I like to shop, I like to get busy with the boys, bring them to cafes. Like, I have my own stuff going on, my own friends. That helped him not have so much pressure on himself to just be my world. And I think that's also just a sign of like growing up and being more mature. But we actually got closer, even though we spent less time together, or we spend less time together nowadays than we used to. We're actually closer because the time we spend together is very high quality, but also I'm just happier in my life in general. I think sometimes when you don't have friends or you don't have a lot going on, you can kind of look to the marriage as like, is this making me happy or not making me happy? Without realizing that you can actually make your marriage happy by fixing some of the other problems in your life, and you'll just feel happier in general, and that will reflect into your marriage. This is advice I've given a number of times over the past 1.5 to 2 years. Self-care, hobbies, friends, community, health, working on your beauty, your sleep, your energy, your parenting style, like your interests, all of that, making those shored up, making those great. Sometimes it's like, oh, I didn't even notice if I saw you this weekend that much, because I don't look to you to fill my happiness cup. I have a full life in and of itself. And yes, if we were, fighting all the time or not getting along or whatever, would I feel sad? Yes, he is a huge priority, but he's not my entire world. I think sometimes this can naturally happen, like when a woman becomes a mom, but sometimes, you're rotating around your husband and he's your world and he's your everything. And then you become a mom and then all that energy goes there and you're like obsessing about the kids and mom is everything. And then this part of your relationship, life starts wilting and dying, right? Balance, my people, my friends. Since the start of my channel, I have said balance. Don't make your husband your everything. Don't make your kids your everything. Have a balanced life by realizing the kids super important, the husband super important, me super important. And because I'm super important, what do I need? I need to work on my faith, my friends, my health, my beauty, my marriage, my mothering, and then the other things that I like to do. Like I like to hang out with my pet. I like to write, I like to read, I like to hike, I like to be outside, I like to explore, I like to plan trips, I like to do my hair, whatever. I have things I do. So, decentering from your husband, don't put so much stock into what he's got going on at any given moment. I think sometimes when it's like you have the idea of that housewife where it's like her whole world is her husband, you have the idea of like she slaves all day in the kitchen only to make him this beautiful meal, and he gets home from work and he takes 2 bites in it. He didn't really like it that much and she's devastated. Why is she devastated? Because he's her whole world. He's her source of happiness. But if we have that same scenario of a woman who cooked a nice dinner and had a great day with her friends. She did a bit of hobbies. She had a great time with her kids or did a lot of productivity around the house. She makes her husband some food. He eats a couple bites. He doesn't like it that much. It's like, oh, I don't really care. I liked the meal, or, oh, I'll make it better next time, or, oh, you can cook next time. That's about building confidence. That's about becoming your own person. And that's about kind of that friendship where it's not like this weird thing where it's like, we met, passionately fell in love, and now I'm his servant around the house. No, that's like what we get accused of here in the homemaking space online. That's not what my marriage is like. We are friends. I am my own person. If you did not like the meal that much, better luck next time. It's not like I'm intentionally making you a meal you don't like. Not taking like him and his happiness so to heart, so personally, is very, very important for becoming a happy wife. Becoming a happy wife doesn't mean having a perfect marriage 24/7. It doesn't mean having a perfect husband. Some of the happiest wives I know have husbands who I would not want to be married to them because I find them annoying. But they're happy. Why? They're best friends. They're in love. She's doing her own thing in her life. He's doing his, and they support each other, have a cute family. Like, life's good. It's stepping back and not tying your confidence, your value to your husband so much, and remembering you're your own person. So yes, my husband is my best friend. I've said that 100 times in this video. But I have other friends. He's my world. He's my heart. He's my love, my angel. But I also have other things I love, like my kids, my God, my dog. I love my husband more than my dog, but I love all these things, and I have a lot of love to give, and my friends and everything, myself. it's about having balance and not becoming codependent on your man. Because the codependency just creates so much room for pain and conflict and low self-esteem and insecurity and drama and jealousy. Becoming your own person. That's like something that I will continue to talk about on this channel. So hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully you got some advice. Hopefully you got some entertainment, some amusement, some thoughts in your head that comments you want to add to the comment section below. I love making these videos because I think it's important to talk about happy marriage. I think a lot of us didn't grow up seeing happy marriage. We have no idea what we're doing. So we look to the advice of people who do have happy marriage. And I would just like to remind you and encourage you, if you didn't grow up with a happy marriage as an example, there is hope, my friends. You can have a happy marriage, but you might need to learn how to do things differently. You might need to learn how to fight or argue differently. You might need to learn how to not be codependent. You might need to learn how to build up your confidence or just take stock of yourself, you know? So, okay, I will end this here. I could keep talking forever. Let me know your thoughts below. Follow me on Instagram if you want to see some more day-to-day stories. I will be trying to keep up my posting here on my channel of every other week. So thank you so much for watching, and leave a like on the video, leave a comment, subscribe if you're not subscribed, share this video with a friend, and have a wonderfully blessed and happy marriage-filled week. Thank you.